Hey everyone, it's Jim
and Charles
from Mellow amps, and we're going to get assembling the chassis in just a moment, but we should prep the PCB now so we can put it aside and let it dry. So all PCBs come from the manufacturer with a little bit of contamination from the manufacturing process, maybe in the packaging. It's always best practice to give them a quick clean. So we've included a good quality 3M scrubber in your kit. Bring your PCB to your kitchen sink using unscented, just plain dish soap. It can't have moisturizers in it or anything like that, just plain soap. Put a little soap on your pad, wet the board, and just give it a scrub in 4 directions. So you do this way, and of course you're focusing on the pads, right?
And you're not scrubbing so hard that you want to try and get those labels off.
Yeah, though you can't, but don't try. We never have. So four directions on one face, flip it over, wet it, a little bit of soap. It doesn't take much soap, and the same thing. And then here's the important bit. Rinse it off thoroughly in clean water, both sides of the board. Make sure you get the holes all nice and clean, and then dry it on a clean cotton towel and just stand it up somewhere in your build area or wherever.
And let it dry thoroughly.
Yeah, this is really important. Whatever you do, don't do this at the last minute and start soldering, because there will be bits of moisture all over the place and you could start popping solder into your face. So yeah, so caution everyone. Don't work on a wet board or even a partially wet board. Okay, well, let's get started building. Okay, so go ahead and grab your chassis parts. There's 4 corner blocks all nicely wrapped up. There's a front and back panel, and there's 2 side panels. Now, the chassis is actually made with a very durable epoxy coating on fiberglass, but we don't want to take a chance that we can scratch it up or mar it. So just be careful when you're working with it. And we're going to need 16 of these really nice stainless steel hex heads. And we're going to need 16 of these square nuts. Now, you will probably notice as you build the kit that you end up with 1 or 2 extra parts left over in each type of component, depending on how many there are. If there's only 2 screws, we don't put a spare in, but when there's 16, we typically will put a spare in. Same with the nuts. And if you look at the actual parts list, you'll see it noted as 16 plus 1 or whatever, and that's what the plus 1 means. There is a spare there. We don't want anybody to have to stop building because the dog ate a screw or a nut fell underneath the filing cabinet and there's no way you're going under there to get it. Okay, let's get unwrapped and we'll be assembling this thing in just a minute.
Okay, so we're here with our back panel and our front panel. There are 2 sides to these. This one obviously goes on the inside, and this one obviously goes on the outside, has the labels on it. And we're going to start off by getting our corner blocks. That's these lovely 3D printed pieces right here that I'm having trouble focusing on. And we're going to get them mounted to the back here. So you want to grab a 2mm hex driver. You can also use an Allen key for this if you want, but these are so much more convenient. Grab your hex head screws and your square nuts, and I'll show you the easy way to do this here.
We should show them the screwdriver in which we get a set of those metric drivers.
Yeah, these are fantastic drivers. I believe they're actually manufactured in Quebec, or it's just a Quebec company here in Canada, and we love them for hex drivers, for standard screwdrivers.
I think they're sold pretty much all over the world, and if you have an Amazon account, Amazon carries the full line, I think. So
they're very good quality, and they're simple, and they do the job. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this, and I'm going to feed one of these machine screws through.
And before we get too far in, you might notice that we have a cotton towel down, and there's a reason for that, because our work surface, though we keep it clean, can have a little bit of debris on it, and we want to try to make sure we don't scratch up delicate components. Well, they're not delicate, but you know what I mean. We want to protect.
We don't want to make a mess of our new amplifier before it's even built.
Yeah, and we don't even want to make a mess of it after it's built.
Yeah, so I'm going to take the corner block and I'm going to feed it through here. And then while I'm holding that, I'm going to bring my driver to it. It can be a little bit finicky, but you see how I'm just holding that to it there. And then I'll bring a square nut over and drop it on the thread and start to catch it. And there we go. Now I'm not going to cinch this down really tight. It's just going to be a little snug. You see I can still move it.
In fact, you're not going to screw down tight any of the 16 chassis assembly screws until everything is basically together. Don't forget at the end, or you'll have a loose, wobbly chassis. But the thing is, as you assemble everything and you start putting the bottom and top plate on it, it'll help a lot with alignment if your assembly has a little wiggle.
Yeah, so there we go. So we've got that on there. Go ahead and repeat it for the other side, and then do the exact same thing for the front piece, and we'll see you back here in a minute. Okay, so this is what you should have right now. The front and the back should have their corner blocks mounted on them, and remember, not too tight. And now we're going to add on our side panels. Now these are double-sided. You can put them on either way, and sometimes there can be small marks, oh, let me get that in focus, on one side or the other. So just take a look at both sides and find the one that looks the nicest. This one actually looks pretty good on both sides, maybe a little mark right here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to face this one outwards.
Yeah, and if you find a spot on the, they're sort of semi-gloss to maybe flat black. If you see a mark, grab a clean towel and a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and give it a wipe, because most likely it's just a bit of debris from manufacturing. Mm-hmm. But if you do find a better side, absolutely put it out on the public face.
Yeah, so we're going to attach these just like this between the front and the back. Sorry about the focusing issues there.
Yeah, the camera does not like a flat black surface. In fact, it hates them.
Yep, and once you've done that, we'll see you back here in a minute.
Okay, so this is what it should look like assembled.
Already starting to look like an amplifier. We just have to put some guts inside.
Okay, so go ahead and grab your parts bin. Charles has got ours handy here. Pro tip, or I should call this the goof tip. Do not put these trays, whatever you're using, anywhere near where you can knock them off a shelf. Because trust me, you will knock it off a shelf. So put it somewhere safe, out of reach. Go ahead and grab your fan. There should be a package of screws in the fan box. Go ahead and grab your switch, your DC jack, and I've got some, let's see, hang on a second. These trays are so deep, I like to use these needle nose pliers. So there's these little Nylock M3 nuts and these really short black Phillips head screws, as well as these internal
lock washers, and this is why we provide extras.
Yeah, so go ahead and grab those.
And you also want to grab your IEC jack.
Okay, we'll see you back in a minute. Okay, now as we go through the build, you're going to hear us say, now let's prep before we assemble all the time. And that's important because basically you're getting organized for this segment of assembly that you're going to do. And the switch needs to be prepped. So we're going to take off the nut and the washer and get them ready. And we want to put the lock washers on the nuts and just sort of get them organized and ready to go.
Oh, on the screws.
On the machine screws. Did I say on the nuts?
Yep.
I did. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to set the machine screws like that. We're not going to screw them all the way down. It'll just make it easier to get them off and get the ring terminals installed. So do all four, and I'll see you back in just a minute. Okay, so go ahead and grab your DC jack, and
you want to take off the washer and the nut here first.
I'm going to bend the little ground tab just a tiniest little bit, just to get it off of the center positive post. And it's going to go in like this. So
let's get you more on screen there.
So you're going to have the ground tab facing down and towards the corner. Let me get it on there. There you go. You can see where it is. It doesn't have to be precise. It's just a convenient spot to work with it.
Okay, now this nut is a 14 millimeter or 9/16. You can use a wrench for it, or you can use a socket if you have one. And we're going to snug it down, but we don't want to over tighten it here.
Yeah, and hang on a second. Because it's going to probably turn our position a little bit, we're going to start with it just a little bit off.
Just a little back.
Actually, it's turning it a lot.
Okay. Oh, it hasn't turned at all.
Okay, go ahead and snug it a little bit more, Charles. And there you go. That's Bob's your uncle. And now let's grab the switch. The switch has to go so that when you're turning it on, let me get that on focus. There we go. So when we're turned on, we're going to actually flip it up. So the switches are sometimes marked and sometimes not. In this case, it's marked. The keyway is always off on this type of switch, and this one actually says on is this way. So
the off side is going to be facing the DC jack, the on side will be facing the other direction.
And because the real estate is fairly tight back here, we're going to send the whole stem all the way through. It's the only way everything fits. But it's not really on the public side, so we're not going to fuss about it.
I believe this is a 15 millimeter. So we're going to come in here, and you'll have to hold this side yourself, and we'll just snug it down to make sure it doesn't rotate.
And we'll check to see if it's lined up and nice and straight, and it pretty much is. Okay, well done. Okay, what's next, Charles? I think we should get the IEC on.
Okay, this one's going to be pretty easy. So we're going to go back to our 2 nylock nuts and 2 small black M3 screws.
And we're going to need a socket. And we'll be right back with the correct socket in just a minute. Okay, so you're going to need a 7/32 or 5.5 millimeter socket. I like to, when I'm fastening down a fairly small component, I like to just use a driver like this long shaft Phillips driver. And I just hold it in my hand. So first get the nylock nut started, just by hand. I'm going to show you a little trick. I don't know if you can see it or even hear it, but when you're trying to get a thread to start, actually go backwards until you hear a little click or feel a little click. There. And when that happens, the starting thread has engaged with the starting thread of the nut. And now you can't cross thread. You're good. An old mechanic taught me that trick years ago. So we're just going to snug that down for the moment. I'm going to do the other side. Okay, and you know what you're doing. And then come back with, actually I'm going to show you this once so that we don't make a mistake. So once you're snug down, you need to tighten up a little bit. But even a 1/4 inch drive socket wrench like this will break the fastener. So I'm not going to use a screwdriver. I'm just going to hold this, and I'm just going to very carefully, notice how I'm holding the wrench where I can't get much torque. Now my hands are strong enough I probably could break it anyways, but just this helps control the amount of torque. If you're way over here on the end, you'll snap something. So just snug it up. Once it's snug, you're done. You're good. Do the same thing over here. And we're almost finished. Go ahead and grab your fan. Okay, last little job is to get the fan installed. Take your time and make sure you get it oriented properly. You see how the label is facing up like this? And the wire is actually down here in this corner.
And the label's outward as well.
Yeah, so it has to be installed that way. I'm going to show you what it looks like when we're done. And these are self-tapping screws.
So there'll be a little bit of resistance as you put them in. And you may need to use a driver for it.
Yeah, you will need to use a driver. I'm just getting it started by hand. And then I'm going to come in here. And I'm going to get one corner on. There will be a little resistance, so don't be afraid to use a little bit of force to get it in. And go ahead and get the other three in and then snug them down, and I'll see you back in a second. Okay, so we're all snugged down and you can see the orientation, everything. I'm going to turn it around so that you can check and make sure you've got the wire in the right spot. So this is the bottom edge of the chassis. And this is where your wire should be. It actually is going to head all the way over and across the amp to this side when we plug it into the PCB. And there you go. Well done, everybody. Your first component is complete.